Maybe it's the calm before the storm.
In the last proof, we watched George Bush and his family be completely horrified by Paul
Stuff of
Ryan
life.
as he spoke.
The connective tissue in a free society. It deepens the well of our common humanity. Throughout his life of service, our republic.
Under their breath, they made
This
shocking
rotunda
reveals.
is a trumpet call to glory. Tributes to the
Benito.
giants all the
He
way
likes
up to
it.
the sky.
And admissions about Paul Ryan's deep, dark, dirty secrets.
A gentle soul
He eats
of
the
firm
cat
soul.
he has them.
He showed us a gentle soul.
We watched this creepy priest give a very strange prayer
We give you thanks, Almighty God, for the appearance
while the people
among us.
in the rotunda that were circling around the casket chanted this. Bullock!
Bullock. Bullock.
Person! Bullock!
Bullock. That's the police guy that lets him.
Let us pray.
Bullock.
If you're not tracking any of what I just reviewed, please go back to the other videos and catch up. It's important that as we move forward in the reveal that you understand everything we've already gone over. Like being recording them.
Speaker Ryan, Leader McConnell, Leader Schumer, Leader Pelosi, members of Congress, distinguished guests, but most of all, President George W. Bush, Governor Jeb Bush,
This loser just thinks I'll help him.
Marvin, Governor Jeb Bush, Neil, Marvin, Doral, and the entire Bush family.
Watch their glares.
The entire Bush family. It is deeply humbling to stand
Find out
before
if
you
he
today.
betrays us. When Pence brings up the week of rituals, watch Laura Bush grab on to George Bush. There's something about holding on to someone else during their deceptions.
It is deeply humbling to stand before you today at the beginning of a week in our nation's capital when we will commemorate
And lie.
and celebrate
But he's at
a
home.
lifetime of service and
There's also
leadership.
something about needing as
of the
many
41st
eyes on their
President of the
deception as
United
possible. And you'll see them
President
when they
George
chant,
Herbert Walker
make
Bush.
sure that a camera is on
The
them.
Bible tells us to mourn with those who mourn and grieve with
Black.
those who grieve. And today, on behalf of the First Family and my family and the American people, we offer our deepest sympathies and respects to your family.
We'll be seeing who
And we
passes.
thank
Gotta
you for
lay
sharing
low.
this special man.
Besides when she's laughing,
nation.
Columbo looks like a consistently tortured soul.
We'll be seeing who passes.
And we thank you for sharing this special man.
Now watch the odd way
With our
that Jeb's
nation
face
and the
drops. Not laying very low, George says
Today,
something that
President
catches
Bush
the
becomes
attention
the
of the
32nd
people
American
around
to lie on
him.
stage in the
Let's
United
watch.
States Capitol with our
Rotunda.
nation and the world.
His son will be the first to see him. If he
President
don't
Bush
play
becomes
his
the
cards
32nd
right, nobody
American
would
to lie on
want
stage
that.
in
You
the
shouldn't say
United
that.
States Capitol Rotunda. Soon, Americans from every corner of the country and every walk of life will make their way to this rotunda to pay the respects of a grateful nation.
Put their eyes.
Upon the death of Abner, it is written that King David said, "Do you not realize that a commander and a great man has fallen in Israel this day?" George Herbert Walker Bush was such a man. While he was known as the quiet man, it was not for lack of nerve or daring. For in all of his 94 years, President Bush never lost his love of adventure. And he never failed to answer the call to serve his country. Born into a tradition of public service, George Herbert Walker Bush began his own life of service when he was still in high school. After the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor in December of 1941,
made up the whole thing. Besides glaring, you'll see them mumble through gritted teeth out of the sides of their mouths.
He wanted to do his part, so he enlisted in the United States Navy's 18th birthday. On receiving his wings, he became the nation's youngest
He
naval
made it all
aviator
up.
In making that
to the
story
South
possible.
Pacific, where his story almost ended. September 1944, on a bombing raid over Chichijima.
Is that how long this has gone on?
His engine caught fire, but he still managed to hit his target.
His plane was hit
before bailing out
on a bombing run,
by
but through the fire and
Find them.
smoke,
All
George-
Their stories become true because you
For his
believe
bravery
it.
under fire, he earned the Distinguished Flying Cross, which would have been enough honor for any American life. But George Herbert Walker Bush was just getting started.
He made it all up.
After he came home, he staked his claim to a booming post-war America by making a name for himself in the oil business. For 4 years, he walked these halls as a congressman from Houston.
Texas. Ambassador.
To the United Nations. He led our party during a tumultuous time for the presidency. And after earning the respect of another president, the CIA, the oil business, Houston, the United Nations, led our party to China, the CIA, Vice President of the United States. While he was known as the quiet man, it may well have been his vision, the vision he had for his life. Known as the quiet man, it was not for lack of nerve or daring.
He's not even in it. These people are so stupid. I said to someone, who's in the box? George Bush Sr. is gone missing.
No barriers, no boundaries, no limits.
He did the work of a diplomat as the first United States envoy
to China and led the CIA before bailing out and being rescued by American forces after some 4 hours at sea. CIA. All told, he flew 58 combat missions. And for his bravery under fire, he earned the Distinguished Flying Cross, which would have been enough honor for any American life.
This is the plan.
George Herbert Walker Bush was just getting started.
staying the course.
Work of a diplomat as the first United States envoy to China and led the CIA.
Remember who rules
And
them.
then, for 8
The Freemasons.
Your mercy, grant us a safe lodging and a
8 years, George Herbert Walker Bush served as the 43rd Vice President. During those years, he set the
Bullock.
standard as a sound counselor and loyal advisor to an outsider who came to Washington, D.C. to shake things up.
If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. And this idea that government is beholden to the people, that it has no other source of power except the sovereign people, is still the newest and the most unique idea in all the long history of man's relation to man. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
There's a highly classified body of information that only a handful of people, properly in my judgment, have access to.
I think Congress has the authority, should have the authority to release secret material.
No, I don't.
Why not?
I don't think that any branch, that the legislative branch of government should unilaterally be empowered to release secret documents. I simply don't feel that way. We cannot run an intelligence business on that kind of basis. And part of it's secret, and I'm going to see that it stays secret.
You and I are told increasingly we have to choose between a left or right, Well, I'd like to suggest there is no such thing as a left or right. There's only an up or down. Man's old age dream, the ultimate in individual freedom consistent with law and order, or down to the ant heap of totalitarianism.
The quest for the new world order.
Or, as we were told a few days ago by the President, we must accept a greater government activity in the affairs of the people. This antiquated document. He must be freed so that he can do for us what he knows is best. I, for one, resent it when a representative of the people refers to you and me, the free men and women of this country, as the masses.
Strengthen its intelligence capability.
A government can't control the economy without controlling people. And they know when a government sets out to do that, it must use force and coercion to achieve its purpose.
Now, if we were to do this, I'd also expect to have to do more than censoring.
Yeah, you'd have to.
Or this would be sort of tough to sell. Guess we'll just see.
You'd have to, or else there's chaos.
But we're stopping that.
President, he once joked about the job, saying that there was, quote, nothing substantive to do at all.
A lot of comments happen all at once, so I'll take them one at a time. He was chosen.
As history records,
to rule the world.
Praise
That's how we control the world. It always was.
counselor and loyal advisor. Preparing to become vice president, he once joked about the job, saying that there was, quote, nothing substantive to do at all.
He showed him.
As history records, during those, nothing substantive to do at all.
Sure there wasn't.
But as history records,
He made the decisions.
he said,
Was a warlord.
as a sound counselor and loyal advisor to an outsider who came to Washington, D.C. to shake things up.
After Pence says outsider, a lot of the people around him erupt in comments and reactions. I'm going to break it down.
During those years, he set the standard as a sound counselor and loyal advisor to an outsider who came to Washington, D.C. to shake things up.
He poisoned
Cut taxes, rebuild the military. And together they did just that. To an outsider who came to Washington, D.C. to shake things up. Cut taxes, as a sound counselor and loyal advisor.
He didn't
To an
believe in
outsider
any
who
of
came
those
to Washington,
causes.
D.C. Outsider who came to Washington, D.C.
They
to
just
shake
thought
things
it
up.
all up.
To an outsider who came to Washington, D.C. to shake things up. Cut taxes, rebuild the military. Cut taxes,
We killed
rebuild
who we
the
had to
military.
kill.
Build the
It's hard to
military.
make out the girl that's talking. This is her from a different angle. Let's see what she says.
Taxes, rebuild the military.
We had to get rid of them. We annihilated those diseases. They were spreading that disease and teaching it to their wives at home.
We need to box
Those
the
diseases.
in.
The military. And
We
together they
annihilated
did
those
just that.
diseases.
The military. And then to an outsider who came to Washington, D.C. to shake things up. Cut taxes, rebuild the military. And together they did just that.
Who's she exchanging looks
And
with?
then,
Ew, yuck.
He's going to find out what Snake and I can do to him.
Just wait till you find out what it takes to be an insider. Now let's watch that scene one last time.
Sound counselor and loyal advisor.
He didn't believe in any of those causes. They made it all up. Before they killed him, he poisoned him. They assassinated him. Don't repeat it. He was a warlord. We killed who we had to kill. We had to get rid of them. We annihilated those diseases. They were spreading that disease and teaching it to their wives at home. Bless Heighton.
He's going to find out what Snake and I can do to him.
in 1988, he made history again. When George Herbert Walker Bush, together they did just that. And then, in 1988, he made history again. when George Herbert Walker Bush was elected in a landslide as the 41st President of the United States of America, becoming the first sitting Vice President to win the presidency in more than 150 years of our history. He served during an uncertain time in the world.
Mr. Clean just stares at the camera.
Made momentous by his leadership. President Bush oversaw the fall of the Soviet Union, the crumbling of the Berlin Wall, and under his leadership,
They're all allies at the Who.
Cold War.
He took our nation to war to repel aggression in the Persian Gulf, and through his leadership as Commander-in-Chief and the brilliance of our armed forces, the United States won a decisive victory. When President George Herbert Walker Bush left office, he left America and the world more peaceful, prosperous, and secure. President Bush was a great leader who made a great difference in the life of this nation. But he was also just a good man who was devoted to his wife, his family, and his friends.
They have to believe this.
I was lucky enough to meet him in 1988.
He was begging
He was
us.
Vice President. And I was a 29-year-old just getting started in politics. Then, as always, I was struck by his approachability.
The kindness.
There was a kindness about the man that was evident to everyone who ever met him.
Modesty.
All his years in public service were characterized by kindness, modesty, and patriotism. He was so modest, in fact, that he never wrote an autobiography. But he did leave a record of his life in the thousands of letters.
He wasn't the only one that wrote letters.
I'm told that he started writing letters to his parents when he was
Putting sunlight on what's going on.
Now where's the junior?
Wonder what kind of message that George Bush's letter to Pence's son really was.
My son got one just not too long ago. As I told two of his sons this weekend, when our son made his first tailhook landing as a Marine aviator on the USS George Herbert
They were ignored. His son.
Exactly.
I took the liberty of writing the ship's namesake to ask for a small favor.
Plan in his defense.
I didn't write him as a vice president to a former president. I just wrote as a proud dad of a Marine aviator to a former Navy pilot. I asked him to sign a picture of the flight deck that I could give to my son. Now, we were told by the staff that the president had long since ended the practice of signing autographs, and we understood that. But little to my surprise, just in time for my son's winging, there came not only a signed photograph, but, of course,
a letter.
A letter.
If you're wise,
and signed as well.
He'll live.
August 2018.
Betty listens.
In that letter, President Bush wrote to my son, in his words, "Congratulations on receiving your wings of gold. I know how proud you and your family are at this moment." And then, in words that assured us that the letter came directly from him, he wrote, quote, "Though we have not met, I share the pride your father has for you during this momentous occasion, and I wish you many CAVU days ahead. All the best, G. Bush."
He told you to hate him. Or he's dead. Good luck.
I would come to
luck. He'll hear a beep. They were warned.
CAVU, for short, is a term Navy pilots have used since World War II. It stands for Ceiling and Visibility Unlimited. President Bush described CAVU, in his words, as the kind of weather we Navy pilots wanted when unlimited. President Bush described CAVU, in his words, as the kind of weather we Navy pilots wanted when we were to fly off our carrier in the Pacific. And
Isn't that for
He
only
once
us?
wrote a letter to his children
It's none of your business.
saying that Cavu in the Pacific, and he once wrote a letter to his children saying that Cavu, in his words,
Go President Trump! Go Pittsburgh!
describes my own life as it's been over the years and as it is right now. Ceiling and visibility, unlimited. That may well describe the essence of this man, saying that Cavu, in his
This woman
words,
is squirming.
describes my own life as it's been over the years. and as it is right
Jenna's
now.
breathing becomes very heavy. Her arms are
Ceiling
crossed, but he's at home.
visibility.
Pence mentioning the word
Unlimited.
Cavu has struck a nerve in the Bush
may well
family.
describe the essence
You
of
see their energy shift.
And it may well have been his vision.
The owner at Fox has bought him.
Hi, I'm the gunner's wife.
Bullock!
The vision he had for his life,
The news will
his
be their
children,
end.
his children's children, and his
Marvin's
country.
actually crying.
No barriers, no boundaries,
Bringing this to an end.
no limits.
Mm-hmm.
So we
You
mourn
will
those who
mourn
mourn
the
and grieve with those who
masses.
grieve. But we do not grieve like those who
Black.
have no hope. For President George Herbert Walker Bush,
He had that hope.
and it may well have been his vision. The vision he had for his life, for his children, his children's children, and his country. No barriers, no boundaries, no limits. His faith sustained him throughout his life of service, and we pray that faith will be a source of comfort for all those who mourn the loss of this good
Better see him.
American. President George Herbert Walker Bush loved his family, and he served his country.
Bullock!
His faith sustained him throughout his life of service, and we pray that faith will be a source of comfort for all those
We
who mourn
gotta
the
see
loss of
him.
this good
We'll see him.
and great American.
Bullock!
President George
Hope we
Herbert
can
Walker
see
Bush
him.
loved his family, and he served his country.
Most important man.
His example will
Based on the
always
Bush
inspire.
family comments throughout
his
Mike
lifetime
Pence's
of service
speech, we'll
will be
send
enshrined
check
in
on
the
him.
hearts
The
of the
police.
American
You can
people
tell that they
forever.
don't like him. Mike
May God bless
Pence
the memory of
definitely
George Herbert
threw the
Walker
Bush family for a
May
loop.
God comfort his family and friends. And may God
And
continue
Mike
to
Pence
bless
just
the
dropped
United States
several
of
booms.
America.
We'll ask to see just why he said
You better
all
not
that.
do this to him. On the Bush family's
Bullock.
Cavu.
America.
Bullock! Snake in his God. Snake in his God here.
May God bless the memory of George Herbert Walker Bush. May God comfort his family and friends.
Boom, boom, bing. Finally, you think that's easy? That's not easy.
Be sure to follow me on Twitter at I_love_Trump. Nothing can stop what is coming.